Good evening, it's 8 o'clock. The top headlines tonight. India's deaths cross 4,000 daily once again. In fact, as India nears 3 lakh deaths, the Prime Minister gets emotional in an address to workers in Varanasi, saying this virus has snatched many loved ones from us. 126 deaths now reported across India due to the disease black fungus. Across India, a key injection to treat this is unavailable in Mumbai. Desperate families are buying it at any price. Tamil Nadu cases and deaths continuing to rise, the only big state to be doing so at this point. Tamil Nadu is now the epicenter of India's COVID surge. Manipulated media from tweets to toolkits. Twitter flags a BJP spokesperson Sambit Patra's tweet as manipulated media. Twitter action came after a Congress complaint, but the government reacts strongly and says that Twitter should not do this, wait for the investigation to finish. In divided views, the Calcutta High Court says 4 TMC leaders will now be under house arrest who are accused in the Narda scam. Meanwhile, a TMC MLA from Bhabanipur resigns for Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee to contest from there. Assam's new MLA, Akhil Gogoi, pushed and shoved, he says, as he was reaching the assembly by state police. Akhil Gogoi elected from jail. Meanwhile, Father Stan Swami appears for his bail plea before the Mumbai High Court. Farmers continue protests at the Delhi-Haryana border despite COVID. The Haryana government claims these protests are now super spreader events. Ex-Telca editor Tarun Tejpal is acquitted of rape in a Goa court. The acquittal comes after 8 years after the case was filed. The Goa Chief Minister says will appeal this in the High Court. Industrialist Gautam Adani is now the 14th richest man in the world, the second richest in Asia after Mukesh Ambani. We'll begin tonight with the latest data on COVID numbers. Our cases in the last 24 hours are just over 2,59,000. Cases are coming down by almost 6%. The deaths in the last 24 hours, however, are high. They're now at 4,209. Deaths are up by nearly 9%. The tests done in the last 24 hours are again high, 20,61,000. That's a record. The positivity rate coming down, it's now at 12.58%. Vaccinations, however, that's a key figure we've been tracking. The vaccinations in the last 24 hours are 12,10,000. Vaccinations are up almost 4%, however, still very, very short from what we need. So if you look at the total vaccine shots given in the last 7-day average, those numbers coming up, well, it's 19.2 crores is the total vaccination numbers, and our 7-day average is of just over 14 lakhs. So we can see the vaccination pace keeps to really climb up. In fact, the vaccinations have fallen much faster than our cases are falling since the peak. Our cases are down by minus 28%. Vaccinations are down minus 65%. Now that's not great because remember, vaccinations need to beat the virus. So for that, we really need to step up what's actually happening. Let's just look now at the overall deaths. India is now nearing 3 lakh deaths, 3 lakh people who've lost their lives to the coronavirus. Today, for the first time, the Prime Minister broke down. He became emotional as he spoke to doctors and healthcare workers in his constituency, Varanasi.
इस वायरस ने हमारे कई अपनों को हमसे छीना है। मैं उन सभी लोगों को अपनी विनम्र श्रद्धांजलि देता हूं।
In a conversation with doctors from his parliamentary constituency Varanasi, the Prime Minister couldn't hold himself back. Emotions getting the better of him, choking up as he paid his tribute to those who died due to COVID. Prime Minister Modi thanked doctors and frontline workers during the video conference.
कोरोना की सेकंड वेव में हमें कई मोर्चों पर एक साथ लड़ना पड़ रहा है। इस बार संक्रमण दर भी पहले से कई गुना ज्यादा है।
People from Mr. Modi's constituency too reacted to his outpouring of emotions.
प्रधानमंत्री जी जो है आज अपने इस कार्यक्रम के दौरान जो है भावुक हुए, जो है ये मानवीय संवेदना को प्रकट करता है।
मोदी जी अगर यही जो कार्य आज कर रहे हैं वह थोड़ा पहले कर लिए होते तो बहुत से परिवार बिखरने से बच गए होते।
Mr. Modi's government is battling criticism about its handling of the pandemic. Even today, the opposition took pot shots at this emotional homage.
आज अपराध बोध में प्रधानमंत्री अगर कुछ आंखें नम कर देते हैं, आंसू बहाते हैं, तो जो करोड़ों लोगों को खून के आंसू पीने पड़े, क्या वो धुल जाएंगे?
Congress's Jairam Ramesh tweeted calling this drama Rajya instead of Rama Rajya. Aam Aadmi Party MP Sanjay Singh went a step further, tweeting his old statement where he seems to predict on the 17th of April that the PM will break down.
अभी आ जाएंगे, अभी आप बस थोड़ा सा इंतजार कीजिए, बस अब देखिए आप लाइट कैमरा एक्शन शुरू होने वाला है, बस थोड़ा इंतजार कीजिए, अभी रोएंगे आके टीवी पे आके रो देंगे, पूरा देश का चैनल चलाने लगेगा, सब भावुक हो गए, सब रोने लगे, सब।
हमें कई मोर्चों पर
The Prime Minister's address comes amid a raging and deadly second wave of the virus, which still continues to kill over 4,000 people, even as the total number of cases come down to 2.5 lakhs a day. Bureau Report, NDTV.
And for India and patients and families who are struggling with COVID, now the new fear is that of black fungus. 126 deaths across India now because of this disease, which has become increasingly common this year after being very, very rare last year. The big worry is that a key injection to treat this is unavailable in most of our major cities. In Mumbai, desperate families are buying at any price.
No injections for black fungus. For the last 1 week, Deepak Mali has been searching everywhere to buy antifungal injection, liposomal amphotericin B, for his brother admitted at this private hospital in Mumbai since May 4 for the treatment of mucormycosis or black fungus disease.
तो 14 मई से यहाँ पे मेडिसिन मिलना बंद हो गया, इंजेक्शन मिलना बंद हो गया। हॉस्पिटल ने बोला कि आप बाहर से अरेंज करिए। उसके लिए हमने इंक्वायरी की मार्केट में कहीं पे नहीं मिल रहा है। तो डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर से कांटेक्ट किया, उन्होंने सीधा बोल दिया कि गवर्नमेंट रेस्ट्रिक्शंस है, इसलिए हम बेच नहीं सकते।
Mayuresh's father got the black fungus disease 3 weeks after recovering from COVID. The 30-year-old mortgaged family gold and farm in Jalgaon to pay for his father's treatment in a Mumbai hospital for over 3 weeks now. But the injection itself is unavailable.
सब दाव पे लगा क्या है वो, अभी इसको और डिटेल में बताना चाहे आपको तो सोना गिरी हुई है, जमीन गिरी हुई है।
कहाँ से आए आप?
जलगांव
से यहाँ पे सिर्फ इलाज के लिए?
इलाज के लिए आया हूँ सर। मैं 27 अप्रैल से मैं इस हॉस्पिटल में हूँ सर।
There are over 5,500 cases of black fungus and at least 126 deaths across the country. But there is a severe shortage of antifungal drugs used for treatment. The centre's allocations to different states has been far short of requirement. The 16,500 doses allotted to Maharashtra, for instance, won't suffice for its 1,500 patients for even 2 days, whereas the treatment protocol is 5 to 8 injections every day for 2 weeks.
जवळजवळ 2 लाख इंजेक्शन्सची एकंदर मागणी म्हणजे नोंदवलेली आहे, म्हणजे परचेस ऑर्डर्स दिलेल्या आहेत संबंधित कंपनीजला, पण त्या कंपनीला जोपर्यंत केंद्र शासन अलॉटमेंट देत नाही तोपर्यंत त्या कंपन्या पण देऊ शकत नाही.
Sun Pharma, which is among the 6 companies manufacturing the antifungal drug, told NDTV they are ramping up production. Amphotericin has become the new remdesivir in short supply and selling at prohibitive prices. The central government says the supply issue will be sorted out soon, with 5 pharma firms being given new approval within 3 days for producing the antifungal drug, and existing firms also ramping up production. With Sohit Mishra in Mumbai, in Hyderabad, Uma Sudhir, NDTV.
Moving to our other big headline, and that of course our focus on Tamil Nadu, the only big state which the government said where cases and deaths are still rising. The latest numbers are showing 36,184 cases new in Tamil Nadu, the deaths high as well, as this is now the epicenter of India's COVID surge. Sam Daniel has a special report.
Charu is shattered. She lost her banker husband to COVID. He was just in his early 40s. At the funeral, their children Lakshmi and Bharati and his parents.
சின்ன வயசு பையன் எங்கள் வயசு பையன் எடுத்தோடனே பணம் வந்து கட்டினா தான் ஹாஸ்பிட்டலில் சேர்க்கறான்னு சொல்கிறாங்க. ஒரு கம்பெனியில் நல்ல கம்பெனி, ஒரு எந்த ப்ராப்ளம் இல்லை, அவருக்கு நல்லா தான் இருந்தார்.
Tamil Nadu's daily mortality is up by 8 times since April, from 48 on the 20th April to 397 deaths on 20th May, an all-time high. With 73 deaths in Chennai alone, pressure is up on the 15 crematoriums in the city. They run almost the whole day, even after nearly 2 weeks of a total lockdown. The state's COVID death count has crossed 19,000. Authorities blame it on late reporting and testing. They deny the rise in deaths are due to oxygen shortages or long wait for ICUs and ventilators outside hospitals.
Coming late is a bigger problem, and with full lung involvement, when you are having an early signs and symptoms, instead of getting yourself treated.
Although the daily death count in Tamil Nadu is the highest in India, the state's mortality rate is only at 1.1%. Authorities say, unlike other states, Tamil Nadu peaks late and will dip in the coming weeks. Certainly a big worry and challenge for the new government. In Chennai with Shah Vijay, Sam Daniel for NDTV.
Hoping to see Tamil Nadu numbers drop soon, but good news from two of India's major cities, Delhi and Mumbai, where in both cities the positivity rate has fallen below 5%. Delhi's positivity rate below 5% today. The positivity rate is now 4.76%, the lowest since April the 4th. In Delhi, there have been 3,009 fresh COVID cases and 252 deaths in the last 24 hours. In Mumbai as well, the positivity rate is now below 5%, dropping to 4.28%. That's the lowest since February. Mumbai had 1,416 fresh COVID cases and 54 deaths in the last 24 hours. So good news coming from those two major cities there, both of which are still under a lockdown. Well, a quick look in other news. After high drama in court today, the Calcutta High Court rejected interim bail and put under house arrest all 4 political leaders arrested in the Nadu bribery case caught on camera until a larger bench is set out to decide the matter. One of the 2 judges, however, Arijit Banerjee, hearing the case, wanted to grant bail, but Justice Rajesh Bindal, acting Chief Justice of the Calcutta High Court, did not agree. The final decision was house arrest for the 4, of which 3 are currently in hospital. Also in other news, TMC MLA actually gave up his constituency. He's resigned as MLA for Mamta Banerjee, the Chief Minister, to contest from his seat. This in fact is a seat that she had given up in favour of challenging her former close associate Suvendu Adhikari in Nandigram. The Trinamool MLA who won from here, Shobhandev Chattopadhyay, resigned from the Bengal Assembly this afternoon, and Mamta Banerjee will now contest from here. Moving on to other news, well, between the BJP and the Congress, it's all about tweets and toolkits. After Twitter flagged BJP spokesperson Sambit Patra's tweet as manipulated media after the Congress complained to Twitter, the government has now intervened and said that they object strongly to this, that Twitter should wait for the investigation to be over. Sanket has the latest.
So a massive controversy has erupted between the Congress and the BJP over Twitter. Now, if you recall, 2 days ago, the Bharatiya Janata Party, including some union ministers and spokesperson Sambit Patra, tweeted out and also held a press conference accusing the Congress of launching a toolkit to malign Modi, to malign the country and also the government, a charge with the Congress completely ridiculed and rubbish. They said that even this document that is being projected as the toolkit of the Congress party is fake. They also registered certain FIRs against leaders or announced that they will register FIRs. Today morning, Twitter declared the tweet of Sambit Patra where he showcased that alleged toolkit as manipulated media, which means that this is not correct. It has been tampered with. The Congress party said that this is exactly what we were saying. But come closer to the evening, the government basically said that this is wrong. Twitter has no right to declare any content as manipulated. In fact, the matter is under investigation and they must take back that tag. So while all of this is happening, there is a massive war of words between the Congress and the BJP.
Really a diversion at this time. Meanwhile, the Reserve Bank of India has stepped in to help out the central government, with the board of the RBI approving a transfer of 99,122 crore rupees as surplus to the central government for the accounting period of the last 9 months. Last year, RBI's board had approved the transfer of much less than this, of 57,128 crores as surplus. But of course, the big worry is this huge second wave, which the RBI has said is a demand shock in terms of mobility, discretionary spending and employment. The markets also meanwhile had a good day today on the back of strong buying interest in banking and financial service shares after the country's largest lender of assets, the State Bank of India, reported a record profit of 6,451 crores. Also, new coronavirus infections remaining below the 3 lakh mark for a fifth straight day. The Sensex climbing 975 points, the Nifty 50 index surging 269. Well, news now from Assam, where new MLAs took their oath today, but all eyes on one MLA, Akhil Gogoi, who is actually currently in jail. He's been charged for protests against the Citizenship Amendment Act. He claims that even as he is brought to the assembly today, he was pushed and shoved by the state police.
A bus carrying Assam's jailed activist Akhil Gogoi, escorted by cops in plain clothes, and a few wearing PPE kits at Assam Legislative Assembly today. But day one, as a new MLA, Gogoi was in his characteristic protest mode. Alleged he was manhandled by officials and security personnel. A video released by his party went viral on social media.
This was Mr. Gogoi's first appearance at the Assam Legislative Assembly as a newly elected MLA after he won the Sivsagar seat in the recently held Assam polls. He has been jailed since 2019, booked under UAPA and charged with sedition related to a case of violence during the anti-citizenship law protest in Assam 2 years back.
The video shows some men pushing Mr. Gogoi as he reaches the assembly for a 3-day session that began today, where all the 126 MLAs took oath. Opposition parties have unitedly claimed its high-handedness.
This is really very unfortunate. No one should be pushed around. Law should take its own course, but it does not mean that anyone who got his due privileges, he should be pushed around. I will ask Akhil Gogoi to raise this matter.
Police sources say that they were maintaining law and order duty since Mr. Gogoi is also an under-trial prisoner. However, Mr. Gogoi won't be a regular face in the assembly until he is granted bail. His bail application was rejected by Supreme Court and his case is now in trial stage. In Guwahati, Ratndeep Chaudhary for NDTV.
An activist MLA who won an election from jail, and the case now of another activist, somebody who worked for tribal rights all his life, Father Stan Swami, who is 84 years old, and he appeared via video conference in the Bombay High Court today to plead for interim bail. He said he wouldn't want to go back to the hospital even though his health is failing. He said he'd rather be at Ranchi with his friends. He was arrested by the NIA in the Bhima Koregaon case because they claim Maoist links. But as he told the court today that when I came to the jail, I could walk, bathe myself right, but this is slowly disappearing. The court has directed the jail now to strictly follow the advice of the hospital panel. The next hearing is on the 7th of July. Well, almost 6 months after farmers' protests began, now farmers are back protesting in numbers at the borders of Delhi. This despite the Haryana government saying it's a super spreader event. However, farmer leaders say that none of the farmers have COVID and have denied reports that 2 farmers here had died of this.
As the country reels under the massive second wave of COVID-19, farmers continue with their protest at the borders of Delhi. No masks or social distancing, however, is visible at these agitation sites. The Haryana government says agitations at Kundli-Tikri borders proving to be super spreaders, and that the people returning to nearby villages from the agitation sites are spreading COVID-19. 129 COVID deaths in 65 villages across the state have been linked to the protests by the government. The farmers accuse the state government of using COVID as an excuse to remove the protesters, who has been here for almost 6 months.
ये सारी जो बात खट्टर साहब ने बोली है अपनी और केंद्र सरकार की नाकामियां छिपाने के लिए बोली गई है। ये तो सरकार की प्रॉपर जिम्मेवारी होती है। आज कोरोना का नाम तो पूरे देश में ले रही है। आंदोलन में चाहे कुछ भी नहीं है फिर भी आंदोलनकारियों ने सारा अरेंजमेंट यहाँ करके रखा है। हमारे पास हॉस्पिटल है, बेड है, ऑक्सीजन सिलेंडर है।
However, the farmer leader claims that there have been no COVID-related deaths at the protest site in April or May. The farmer leaders claim oxygen beds are vacant at the temporary hospital, a sign that they have the pandemic under control.
सरकार है, बीजेपी सरकार है, जो खट्टर सरकार है, मिलजुल कर आंदोलन को बदनाम करने की साजिश रच रही है। चाहे बारिश हो, कितना पानी खड़ा है, जहां बीमारी फैलने का खतरा है, सरकार का तो कोई डॉक्टर जहां कोई इलाज करने वाला भी नहीं है, खुद के संयुक्त किसान मोर्चा ही यहीं पर सारा कुछ संभाल रहा है।
The farmers remain firm on their demand that the central government roll back the farm laws.
While on one hand the authorities are claiming that the farmers' agitation sites are converting into hotspots for COVID-19, there has been no initiative by the government to resume talks with the farm union leaders to end this deadlock. And now the farm union leaders are stating that if there is any spread of COVID-19 at these sites, it is the central government's attitude that's going to be responsible for it. With camera person Sushil Rathi and colleague Neeta Sharma, I'm Akshay Dongre for NDTV.
Well, a quick look at some other news. A Goa court has acquitted former Telca editor and owner Tarun Tejpal 8 years after he was first accused of rape by a former employee. The court's order is not out yet, but the Goa government has said that they will appeal this acquittal in the High Court. The ex-employee who had filed the case against Tarun Tejpal has refused to comment so far.
It's been a very long nightmare for my family. I'm relieved that it's finally over.
After a 4-year trial, Tarun Tejpal, the founder of the Telca magazine, has been acquitted by a Goa court on rape, sexual harassment and wrongful confinement charges in a 2013 case. Tejpal's then colleague had accused him of sexually assaulting her in a lift of a 5-star restaurant in Goa, a case which soon exploded, forcing him to step down as the editor of the Telca. Tejpal was arrested in the same year, but had been out on bail since May 2014. The Goa government is now set to challenge this order before the High Court.
This is the injustice against that woman, और द स्टेट गवर्नमेंट इस बेयर नहीं कर सकते हैं। उस हमारी महिला भगिनी को न्याय देने के लिए द गवर्नमेंट विल फाइल अगेंस्ट दिस जजमेंट इन अ हाई कोर्ट।
In an almost 2,700-page charge sheet, the police said that there's enough evidence against him. Rebecca John, the lawyer of the Telca case survivor, says that she does not want to comment as of now. But with the Goa government set to move the High Court soon, the case seems to be far from over.
This was a conspiracy.
Bureau Report, NDTV.
You all know, the truth.
Well, moving to other news, industrialist Gautam Adani is now the 14th richest person in the world. He's also the second richest in Asia after Mukesh Ambani. Year to date, his net worth has soared by 100% or $33.8 billion. Remarkable that this has happened in the middle of a pandemic. He founded India's largest private port operator as well, and he replaces Chinese billionaire Zhong Shanshan on Bloomberg Billionaires Index. His net worth is now $67.8 billion.